Hello and welcome to the Connected Community Podcast. Today, my guest is Nicola Navon, and today we talk about how to spice things up in the bedroom. That's not really what we talk about. It's a little piece of it, but we talk about relationships and how to balance the feminine and the masculine. It's really important that we ourselves have a balance of masculine and feminine, and then also within our relationships. All too often, we find that there's one that's more heavily weighted than the others. And we talk about why it's important to have that balance, how to create more intimacy, how to spice things up in the bedroom. And this is just a really fun episode that I think is relatable to everyone. For some reason, we find it hard to relate to the opposite sex sometimes. And so here we do a little dive into this topic and we take some of the mystery out. So I hope you'll enjoy. So much gratitude if you leave a comment or a review. I want to thank you so much for being here, and I hope you'll enjoy today's episode. Thank you for listening to the Connected Community Podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, please like, share, and subscribe. I can be found at www.nickyyoga.com, NICKYYYOGA.com. Until I see you again next week, I hope you have a beautiful day. Hi, Nicola. Welcome to the Connected Community Podcast.
Thank you so much for having me, Nikki.
I'm so excited to have you. And I love our topic today. So, we're going to talk about bridging the feminine and masculine dynamics and kind of deep diving into how to have deeper intimacy in our relationships, maybe how to have more passion in the bedroom, how to understand the opposite sex. And they've written so many books about this, right? Because we have a little bit of trouble wrapping our head around how the opposite sex thinks. So, why do you feel like this is an important subject?
Yeah, I love this question so much because we're getting to the why, which is so important. Because if we don't understand the why, then what's the point? Why are we listening to this podcast? Why I love this topic so much, Nikki, and for those of you listening, is when we understand each other as men and as women, however you identify, gender nonconforming, we all have masculine and feminine energies
Yeah.
within. And different levels of the energies pending our childhood, our early experiences, the phase of life we're in. And we're just diving right in the phase of life we're in. So just for example, so you could feel me if I'm building my business, I'm heavier in my masculine energy. I'm creating out in the world. So we all have different energies, levels of masculine and feminine within. And when we understand the energetics, it helps us better understand each other as human beings. It helps us better understand how to work with someone. Oh, if my partner is more in their masculine energy, desiring freedom, or more avoidant, or more less inclined to share sensitively, how do I work with that by tuning into my feminine? And how do I bring balance into every moment? And the more that we have harmony and we understand the energetics, the more we're going to have better relationships. We're going to have deeper passion.
Yeah.
And we're going to have greater understanding as a collective.
So having a balance in the relationship between the masculine and feminine, but it sounds like also having a balance within ourselves of the masculine and the feminine.
You hit the nail on the head, Nikki. Yeah, because it's this. If we don't have the balance within, we won't have the balance in relationship. And the beauty of this work is it just takes one person to understand the energetics and to be balanced. Because, for example, in my personal life, my lovers, most of them, they're more feminine men. Meaning they're more emotional, they're connected to the heart, yeah?
Yeah.
And so if I want to incite their primal desire in the bedroom, let's say I want to feel their ravishment, how do I get them into their masculine? I need to go into my dark feminine, my art of seduction. Yeah, I need to lure them in to incite that fan those flames of desire in them. And dark feminine energy is masculine energy because it's forward. And then it allows me, once they're, turned on and ready to go, it allows me to then sink back into my femme. And so when we have one person that knows what levers to pull,
Yeah.
we're able to also manipulate, not in an unhealthy way. People think manipulation is negative. I mean, to, let's say, balance out a dynamic in a way that serves the highest form of love, passion, whatever it is that the moment needs.
Yeah. Okay, with the bedroom situation, what
Mhm.
if the man comes in with like too much masculine? How do we manage that?
Yeah, I love this question. And it's so funny, Nikki, because I actually did a post today all around polarity. And I'm doing a new masterclass for men, learning polarity, because it's often, as
Yeah.
women, we crave to feel that hunger from the masculine, but then it's that restraint of his masculine that then incites our hunger for
Yeah.
him. And so it's this balance, right? And
Yeah.
what I would say to that is, because I've experienced this in my own life, and I do this in my work with couples, how do we then gently show them what it is we want? So, for example, this is my flavor. If you're listening, insert whatever, think about how you could
Yeah.
communicate. For me, it would be something like mama likes it slow. I like a little warm up. Yeah, let's slow it down a bit. I want to feel your hands on my back, warming up my back first. Make love to my feet. Show
Yeah.
me how much you want it. Like, get a little playful. Now that's pointed. It's subtle, but that's
Yeah.
saying, slow down. Yeah. Like, or aren't you, maybe to get a little rough, aren't you going to play nice? Like, how do we illuminate the dynamic in a more
Yeah.
subtle, playful way? Now that takes both masculine energy, because
Yeah.
that's me saying what I want. Now, that is, if I don't have my masculine core, my feminine isn't going to voice that. I know that in my own life when I didn't work on that because I was too afraid of rejection,
Mm.
judgment. How would that land? It may not land. They
Yeah.
may react, but how do we hold ourselves through, like, I'm going to express it. I'm going to be playful in how I express it, and I'm going to see
Mm.
what happens.
I'm curious about why I'm sure that you see this as a pattern too. Why both men and women have so much trouble when it comes to intimacy expressing exactly what their needs and desires are.
Mm, such a good question. What comes for me is it's vulnerable.
Yeah.
It's vulnerable. And in my work with both men and women, it's actually working on strengthening the masculine core of the inner safety. Because even the masculine has fear around rejection, fear around judgment, and how to state their desires, in a way that they feel will be received.
Mhm.
And so it's the more that we come back to, and this is the wholeness piece. This is why I love this balance of the energies, because when we are fully whole, then you, partner, rejecting me doesn't impact who I am as a feminine being, who I am as a sexual being. And we
Yeah.
often make it mean something of who we
Mhm.
are as masculine and feminine beings, men and women, sexual beings, because we're sexual beings in our nature. So any form of rejection also wounds the sexuality piece.
Yeah. So I guess most of it does um come back to that theme of fear of rejection, fear of
Yeah,
abandonment. Yeah. We talked
yeah.
about this before when we were chatting about how, and this was my dynamic. It's not anymore, but it was in my relationship. And I see it in tons of my friends
Mhm,
where the women have a lot more masculine and the men, like you were saying, are in their feminine. And
mhm,
then there was this shift that happened when I started stepping into my feminine. It almost created space for my husband to step in his masculine, and all of a sudden there was balance. Um, and so how do we like I would like for you to share, like, why is it important when we find ourselves as women in this role of the masculine and that's kind of our personality, why it's important to find that balance in our relationships?
yeah. I love that you're bringing this to the table, Nikki, because this is so common. It's everywhere in the world, and
Mhm.
I've been there. and I
Yeah.
can still go there. That's why I teach about it, because it's a forever journey for me to work on, and writing a book on this topic. And the thing is, mm, oftentimes in our world, we've conditioned both masculine and feminine beings to think that we have control, that we can control the other person, that we can control how they're responding to us, that we can control the relationship. So when we go into mothering, it stems at a subconscious level from, I'm going to try to control you, partner.
Mm.
Now, instead, how do we shift that to, I'm going to step into my divine feminine, which is, I am going to do my best to share what it is I desire. And then I'm going to give you a chance to rise to meet me, partner. And if you don't, maybe I shift my own energy. Maybe I play with my communication, how I'm communicating. I try different things. I try to be more playful, see how that lands. I try to be more serious, see how you respond. Maybe I use analogies. I use humor. I do different things to see how you respond, partner. But ultimately, I know I can't control you. Now, here's where the inner safety comes in. The inner safety comes in because if we don't feel secure in ourselves and we don't fully feel whole in ourselves, then what happens is, I'm going to try to control the direction of the relationship because I can't lose you, partner, because the thought of being without you, I feel incomplete, or
Yeah.
I source my value from that relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And instead, remembering I'm okay on my own. I may not want to be. I may want your help, partner, but I don't need your help. I don't need you to save me, to fix me, to make me whole. Anything I expect from you, I can give to myself. And when we continue to come back to that sovereignty, it helps. But it's a challenge in relationship because as we get into relationship, we want to be able to rely on our partners. We want to
Yes.
be able, to ask them for
Yes.
things. And that's important for polarity. And
Mm-hmm.
so it's shifting, it's the subtleties. Like if I'm working through a problem and I want my partner to give me some wisdom, some insight, so I'm inviting him into the masculine, I need to first work through it. And I need to know how I'm walking myself through it. And then
Yeah.
it's like, babe, I was feeling a little depressed last week. This is what I've been working through. These are the insights I had. And I'm open to, like, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. Yeah. So it's relying on them, but it's not depending on them. But I think that there are times in relationship where we're wanting that support from our partners as women, and then our men go into like fix it mode. I want to fix it.
Yeah.
I'm going to give you advice. And sometimes we just want them to just listen.
Yes. And this is such a common dynamic. It even happens with some of my sisters in my life, where I have to be like, ooh, my vulnerability for you is a gift.
Yeah.
And I'm not looking for a teacher student vibe. I'm not looking for you to fix me. I
Yeah.
just want you to receive and share your own experience. And then it's like, how do we teach, whether it's your feminine being listening and it's your masculine partner, or a masculine being listening, it's your feminine partner? How
Yeah.
do we teach each other how we want to relate with them? So, like, ooh, instead of trying to fix me, why don't you share your own experience? Why don't you just listen? Why don't you ask
Mhm.
me a few questions? And then for them, if it's too heavy, then maybe they're like, hey, you know, uh, why don't you work through this yourself? Because it's feeling heavy for me. Like, it's through the communication that we build the trust.
Yeah.
And then one other thing, Nikki, I want to say, because this is such a deep topic, but with the mothering dynamic is, if, let's say, your partner isn't showing up in the way you desire, one approach can be like, you said you were going to, take care of the landscaping in the house and you didn't do it.
Yeah.
Right? You said you were going to clean or do the dishes this week and you didn't do it, or take the kids out. You didn't do it. When we speak to it, instead of speaking to the negative, speak to the positive and speak to what it means. So, for example, babe, when you say that you will do the dishes, and help me out one weekend, clean the house, and you don't follow through, it makes me feel, what's the deeper meaning? For me, it would make me feel like I can't trust your word.
Yeah.
I want to be able to rely on you, partner.
Mhm.
And so what I'd appreciate is, if you say you'll do something, that you at least follow through, or that you communicate with me about the status.
Yeah.
proactively.
Yeah.
Why? Because we'd feel more connected to each other. I'd feel more feelings of fondness towards you. I'd feel like I can stay in my feminine. I don't want to go into my masculine and have to follow up with you. Now that's something partner
Yeah.
can understand because they don't want feminine partner in the masculine.
Yeah, I mean, that's such a common dynamic where, I feel like I hear this all the time with men and women where maybe the woman has asked the man to do an errand or take out the trash or something, and then they don't, and there's just like this control dynamic too, and then you feel like you're nagging, which is like you don't want to have to repeatedly ask because that doesn't feel good to repeatedly ask something, and yet there's not follow through, and so there's super big frustration. I mean, I have this with my child.
Yes.
Where
I,
I'm like, I can't stand nagging, but like, make your bed.
yeah. Totally. And it's a challenge, and that's why it's like it's working through it either with speaking to the why it matters,
Yeah.
or I like to also bring in a little play, which is hard in the moment. I'm
Mhm.
coming up my own, being I'm in Chicago. I just moved to Chicago. I know we were talking about this, and my family's here, and I haven't been home in Chicago in 4 years.
Mm.
And so reconnecting with my family, my own triggers come up. And so how do we also use humor and play to speak to that? So for example, if, I just walk into the bathroom, let's say I use a partner example, but let's say it's a mess. Your partner just took a shower, there's water all over the floor. How do we dramatize it? So
Yeah.
for me, what comes, I feel like I'm a sailor at sea, and there's a massive cyclone and there's water all over the floor. So then it's like, hey babe, like, mayday, mayday, like, what am I, the captain at sea, and there's a cyclone just hit? What's
Yeah.
happening in the bathroom? And that
Mhm.
says, like, it's a mess in there, but it's a different energy. It's a little more
Yeah.
playful. It's more inviting.
Yeah. And what if that doesn't work?
Yeah. If it good comment. If it doesn't work, then it's like, we got to keep playing with it, or it's like, ooh, I want to feel in my sensuality. And instead I feel like I'm in a third grader's bathroom. What's going on? Like, how do we fix that? How can I get back into my queen? I know that you wanted me to feel like your queen, don't you? Like, because we have to assume good intent. Like, they want us to feel good. They don't want to
Yeah.
be in the act either. It's desexualizing for us. It desexualizes us because no one wants to make love with their mother, and it desexualizes them because no one wants to make love with their child, right? So it's
Yeah.
kind of like it's not sexy on both ends. And so we can speak to it. It's a mix. We speak to it directly. We can
Yeah.
be direct with our communication and serious, and also speak to the why and the emotion, and we can also try to use play in these different approaches and see how it lands.
Yeah. I mean, it's making me think of there's multiple dynamics. So the one is with the women and that are very much in their masculine, which I think is more common in this day and age. But then I look at my parents' generation where the women are very much in their role and the men are very much in their role, and the woman is the caretaker. It's the one that takes makes the appointments and sets up the social
Mhm.
calendar and does all the cooking and the cleaning, and the man does the taking out the garbage and taking care of the yard and taking care of the finances. And I'm wondering if there's a danger in that too.
Yes. It's like, this is why I love the balance, because the truth is, for passion and intimacy to stand the test of time, well, I don't want to say stand the test of time because nothing is forever, but to have the best chance at it, we have to both be able to exercise both. I need to be able to surrender to my partner's direction. I also need to be able to invite exciting plans into the partnership. I want to be able to be on one end of their ravishment, and for them to be fulfilled, because everyone wants to feel desired, I also need to express my own hunger and desire.
Yeah.
And so it's this blend of like, how do we, in all areas of the relationship, practice both? And it's a challenge when one person's more conscious of the energetics, but we can, as one person, do our best to try to invite in shifts. Like leadership as a feminine being leads to receivership. So how do I lead subtly? So because subtle is different than the mothering or the directing or the coaching. How do I lead subtly that then invites me to receive? Babe,
Mm-hmm.
we haven't gone on a date in a while. I know you've made amazing ideas in the years. Why don't you plan Saturday night? Tell me where to be, and I'll just meet you there at 7. We'll spend the day apart because I love me a little mystery. Now
Mm-hmm.
that's leading,
Yeah.
but I'm not leading.
Yeah. Instead of nagging, like, you never take me anywhere. We never go anywhere. Like, things are stagnant. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because like how do we get a cat to come over? You don't say, come over here and drink the milk in the bowl. Like, come here, kitty, right? We gotta seduce people into things. And whether it's our
Yeah.
partner, whether it's in the workplace, getting our clients to motivating them to experience the transformation to go along with the container, whether you're leading teams and you want your team to be aligned along a single vision, it's also painting the vision in a way that's exciting. Another
Mm-hmm.
example, I love to give examples because it makes it tangible.
Yeah.
It's like if I want to go on a vacation and my partner is, we've been working heavily, like they can't take time off work, then it's like, how do I paint that vision? How do I get them excited? Mm, I had a dream the other day, we're sipping coconuts on the beach in Maui, listening to our favorite Bob Marley
Yeah.
song, and it's like, and then pause, and they're like, what? What are you talking about? Then maybe you give a little bit more of the story or the vision,
Yeah.
and using that intrigue to build its polarity. It's to build that tension, that excitement that invites them to want to lean in.
Yeah. I mean, it makes me think that I used to always plan our family trips and vacations and everything. And my husband and I are going to Peru in a couple weeks. And I basically just like gave him the whole thing. He's planned the whole thing. He booked the tickets. He found the retreat center. He's like found a guide. He's done all of it. And I'm so grateful because I didn't have like I'm just going to show up, and I'm so used to planning all of that. So I think there's also about acknowledging our partners when they do that, and showing gratitude for it when it happens.
I love that, Nikki. First, I can't wait to hear about Peru because it's top of my list. And I love that you also are invited or received from the masculine planning because it's going to feel so good to just get the opportunity to show up.
Yeah, just pack my bag and just go and follow along. And I'm so excited about not having to have the responsibility of planning it all. And then I think it feels good for him too to have planned it. And yeah, there's balance. It's definitely about
Exactly.
balance.
I love what you say because the masculine also loves to provide. They like to feel needed. That's how they get their value as well.
Yeah.
So it's a gift.
And I'm thinking about this example of a woman who runs a company. And so she's a powerhouse. And so at work, she's in her masculine all the time, and she's setting up meetings and she's directing things. And then when she wants to go home, I'm assuming that she wants to take that hat off and step into her feminine a little bit and maybe be cared for and be nurtured. And I'm wondering if women have an easy time jumping from one to the other, or do they hold that role typically when they come home?
It's such a good comment, and it's also something in my own life I'm working to continue practicing because I it's the balance because it's a challenge when we're whether you're running a company, when you're leading and you're directing and you're creating and you're telling people what to do, it can feel heavy. And so then it's like, how do we also nurture our own feminine side first? And
Hmm.
that'll allow us to drop in more easily in partnerships. So, for example, how do I let myself take a pause in my day and like breathe and maybe just move a little and like get
Yeah.
into that state where I feel in my fem, even in my communication. So, if I'm running a company and I'm dealing with people all day, and I have to catch myself with my communication. This is also why I love communication and I
Hmm.
incorporate this into work. It's like If I'm speaking like this, real intense, directing people all day, I also notice myself go in my heavier energy versus if I
Yeah.
like allow myself to slow down
Mhm.
and to breathe. And so it's a balance because we like the balance. We need the balance and they serve
Yeah.
different purposes. Sometimes we have to go more directive. And when we also get excited, sometimes that comes. My natural voice is more directive, it's more heavier, and it's a continuous practice of restraint for me to actually soften my own
Yeah.
voice.
I mean, it's been this interesting experience, like I said, with me and my relationship, and then with my friends, where it was very much the women were the masculine and the men were in the feminine. And then I've seen it with a bunch of us where we've switched into the feminine. And as the man has stepped into the masculine, we've all said, "Oh my God, it's so hot." Yes, they did this and it's so hot and we love it.
Yes. And it's also helping. That's why I love working with both, helping the masculine because
Hmm.
it's a societal shift because we are all conditioned with the masculine. And so as women to have to move forward in the world, uh, we have to embody those principles and sometimes even more strongly to have to really have the same level of impact.
Yeah.
And so then what happens is men can often go into the feminine either because of avoidance, closure, not feeling connected to their own healthy masculine of how do I hold presence for the feminine
Hmm.
and honor my truth. Because this is something actually, Nikki, it came up in a couple session of mine where um, the masculine being was talking about presence, and he was like, I want to be present for partner. He wanted to be present, and for him, the presence meant verbal presence. I'm going to ask questions. I'm going to try to fix you. I'm
Hmm.
going to
Yep.
try to
Yep.
help you. And what we uncovered is like, okay, the kind of presence that feels good. Presence doesn't have to be words. It can be silence. I'm going to stay
Hmm.
grounded. Maybe, partner, you're in a feisty mood and you're testing me on something. I'm going to be grounded. Babe, what's going on over here? What's happening? I sense your tone. And it's also like inviting the feminine into deeper consciousness. Or if feminine partner is like you never plan the dates or in a nagging role. And it's like, babe, I just got home. Let me like ease up for a moment. Let me settle in. And then I'll be happy to do that tonight. Or I'm sorry I didn't do that yesterday. And I'll follow up with that tomorrow. And it's also teaching the masculine how to embody the healthy masculine without closure or avoidance
Yeah.
and really owning the truth, owning their experience in relationship because many men don't always voice their experience in relationship either. And then it plays into those like societal stereotypes of the masculine seeking freedom and the woman that's boxing him in. And we all desire freedom and we all
Yeah.
desire connection, and that doesn't serve anyone. And so it's like, where am I avoiding? Also having the masculine. If I'm avoiding, where am I avoiding? Why am I avoiding? What am I afraid of? Babe, I didn't talk to you about not following through on this thing because I thought that you were going to get angry at me and I didn't want to feel that energy.
Yeah.
And then it opens up for conversation. Oh, how would you like me to respond? Whatever she could potentially say. Oh, it's not how I
Hmm.
would have responded. Oh, it meant a lot to me. Okay, now let's have a conversation about the actual thing.
Yeah. It's making me think of attachment styles because if we don't have a secure attachment in our relationship, then there is that other energy that comes in that brings a level of dysfunction into the relationships. And
So
that's
true,
and that starts
Nikki.
with self, right? The finding that healthy attachment starts with self. We can't seek that through someone else to fulfill that for us.
Yes, it's so true. And I
Mhm.
love what you speak to because that's secure attachment. For me, I liken that to the balance of the energies too, because the more avoidant energy you can also liken to the masculine. It's an unhealthy masculine trait, but
Yeah.
and the more
Yeah.
clingy energy, anxious, you can liken to an unhealthy trait of feminine energy. I don't want to say masculine as men and women because we're different. Um, But it's like, how do we then come into greater? I'm going to connect. I'm also going to express my need for independence and sovereignty and freedom. I'm not going to let you, partner, impact my energy. I'm going to stay grounded in my own energy. Babe, this isn't feeling good for me. I'm not enjoying this dynamic. This is what I desire. This is how I view us navigating family in these moments, like really expressing our sovereignty while also working interdependently as a
Mm,
couple.
yeah. It's hard with the man with the avoidant and the woman with the clingy and those energies where the one creates more of the other energy. So if one becomes more avoidant, the other one becomes more clingy. And I think it's a men's natural tendency to just want to take a little bit of space. And then as women, we want to like talk it through and we want to connect. And so that's a tricky dynamic in relationship with men and women.
It is. And, this fueled my own inner work on balance because of my own anxious attachment. And
Mm,
I like avoidant men. Why? For
yeah.
me, it signifies, because people always say, oh, it's unhealthy. For me, it signifies it's someone who's free. There's
Mm,
that element of freedom, someone who marches to the beat of their own drum. That's what I mean by that avoidant, that like no one's going to tell me what to do. No one's going to put me in a box. I'm free, a free being, and I'm a free
yeah.
being. So I'm
Mhm.
attracted to that energy. And not someone who needs me, because clingy energy for anyone is unattractive, right?
Yeah.
None of us want that. As feminine beings, we don't
Yeah.
want a masculine. It's like, I'm going to do whatever it is that you say, and any moment, drop of a hat, I'm here. And you could tell that needy energy is there. And so for me, it was coming into my own wholeness. That's why even when people ask me, my own relationship status given my work, no, I'm not in a relationship right now. And I have to be okay with that. And I have to feel whole in who I am, because nothing defines me. And then I relate from that place of wholeness. And this is how we all continue to magnetize what it is we desire. And this will empower all of us. Doesn't mean, oh yeah, you're in a relationship that isn't feeling good, like get out, that's not right, it's not right. No, it doesn't mean that. It's also doing the work with someone and choosing to commit and relate. But our capacity for intimacy lies within. And so who we be, how we feel about ourselves, how we talk to ourselves and relate to ourselves, and how we thus relate with others matters.
Yeah. It makes me think when you go into a relationship, you want somebody that's whole. That's what we're all seeking, is somebody that's whole, and yet we're never gonna find that unless we're whole ourselves.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because nothing fills that. We all feel something that I'm reading about in the Gene Keys, learning
Yeah.
about, and
Yeah.
yeah, I love the Gene Keys.
Yes.
And I'm also getting into Kabbalah right now. And something I'm learning is it's this, like, the sacred primal wound of humanity is we feel disconnected from the divine that we are.
Yeah.
And so we all feel this gaping hole of loneliness
Mm.
that we fill in our own different ways, different addictions, work, sugar,
Yeah.
like many things,
Yeah, yeah,
shopping,
fill it up.
gambling, avoiding the pauses, calling someone on the phone, anything that we do to avoid the pauses, that like gap where it's that feeling of loneliness. And in partnership, sometimes we feel like our partner can fix
Mhm.
that
Yeah.
loneliness. Why am I lonely? Why do I feel unfulfilled? Why am I not getting what it is I want? But that loneliness is human. And like
Yeah.
remembering that we all feel that, and no one will fill us,
Yeah.
and if we feel lonely in partnership, or if we're confused, or if you're a masculine being and you're like, I'm thinking about these other women, what's wrong with me? Does that mean something's wrong with my partnership? It may not be. Maybe it's just this, you feel that feeling of like deadness inside. And how do
Mm.
I reinvigorate the passion with what I have? My
Yeah.
own inner passion that then radiates out into passion in my partnership. Because when the masculine isn't connected to their own passion,
Yeah.
and I say the masculine, but even myself, if as a feminine being, if I'm not connected to my own passion, I'm not going to bring that into partnership, because I need to reinvigorate that passion within.
So how do people do that? So if somebody's been in a relationship, say somebody's been married for 20 years and the passion was there and kids and families and work and all this stuff and then it's died out.
Yeah.
What advice do you have for bringing that back into the relationship?
Love this topic. We're going in so many good directions, Nikki. This is a holistic, integrated episode for anyone listening. And so passion thrives on polarity. Now, polarity, it's energy created through contrast, through friction. So, for example, I give real simple examples and then we'll make it more tangible in bed
Okay.
examples. But let's say partners like Nicola, where do you want to go for dinner tonight? They're inviting me in the masculine. Now they're in the femme. Now, if I say, I don't know, what do you want? It's going to deaden the polarity. They're inviting me into a
Yeah.
different pole. So for me, then it would be like, oh, I really want to go have some sushi because I'm craving some sticky rice. Yeah. Like, great. We crave polarity. Yeah? A real
Yeah.
simple example. Let's say partner leans in and they start to give me a massage. Now, if I go back and I massage them back, now we're both in the masculine. So for me to keep that polarity, that friction, that like
Mhm.
blank space between, I need to stay in my feminine, receive it. I'm going to receive that massage. I'm going to enjoy it. I'm going to maybe even close my eyes while you're giving so that I can go inwards while you're giving and we're connected in that disconnection where I'm not looking at you direct.
Mhm.
Then maybe I go into my masculine. Now I massage you and partner. Now you receive. And so it's finding ways to play with
Yeah.
this energy.
Mhm.
Now in the bedroom, another way that you can create it is through shocking the mundane, shocking the monotony. So if you have everyday partner comes home, you cook partner a meal, they come in, they sit down, you eat the meal, you talk about the day. How do we do something different? Surprise! We're just having champagne and strawberries tonight. Or like, how do we create some of that excitement?
Yeah. Yeah.
Surprise, you're eating blindfolded. You got to guess every flavor that's in there.
Yeah.
Or if
Yeah.
like they
I
want to
mean, it's
watch.
creating
Yeah.
passion outside the bedroom to bring it into the bedroom.
Yeah. How do we then right, but it's through these little, um, I like to say, don't give to get. So if we think about it like I'm just initiating intimacy,
Yeah.
partner, you're sitting on the couch and I come by and I just slide my hand along your shoulders. Hey, good morning, honey. Little things, right, that get to fuel the fire over the day. And then we let it build and it builds. Now I'm gonna tease you and I'm gonna pull away. Not as a game I'm
Mhm.
playing, but it's like I'm gonna stroke your neck and I'm gonna give it space to breathe. Because fire needs air, as Esther Perel says, right? So you want to stoke a fire. The
Yeah.
intimacy is too heavy if we're just making love. Let's say, let's just make love. Maybe then, if you want to make it last, we make love, then we pause. Then we tickle each other's arms. Then we stretch for a minute.
Yeah.
Then maybe we go down and we give oral. We do something else. Then we go back to making love. Then we pause. Maybe then someone goes to the bathroom, air out the space a little bit, right? It's like finding ways to
Yeah.
let things build, create tension and healthy tension. The more that we can hold it, that also creates polarity.
Mhm. It also breaks up the routine and the monotony of predictability, which gets boring over time is predictability.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's like we all love, I know that you and I are both into self-development, self-growth. So it's like
Mhm.
we're always growing. Same with a
Yeah.
relationship. It gets boring if we're not developing as a couple, if we're not trying new things, if we're not expanding our way of being. Let's try new sex positions. Let's explore. What does this feel like? Aha, I would love to dominate you this time. I would love for us to role play. I would love for you to give me a massage. And also, yeah, you bringing in newness
Yeah.
into the romance and into the bedroom.
And also maybe getting rid of the end goal. right? There's no goal, there's no place to go and end. There, it's about the process of getting there.
I love that, Nikki. Yes, removing that goal, because that goal, it creates pressure for both parties. It doesn't
It
feel
does create
good.
pressure.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. As masculine beings, I've uncovered this through my work with men. Like, they feel the pressure of having to lead and having to have the woman orgasm for it to be a success. They feel a lot of that pressure. They can't
Mhm.
orgasm until she orgasms. But then for the woman, what happens is she often feels pressure. I need to orgasm quickly. And
Yeah.
I don't have
I need to catch
spaciousness
up.
because she's waiting. Exactly. And so when we
Yeah.
remove that goal,
Mhm.
of I can be in pleasure without having to orgasm.
Mhm.
We can have a good time without having to have sex. We can explore sensual massage without a need for it to be anything more. I can self pleasure without having to orgasm. And the more that we practice that healthy restraint with ourselves, with our partners, and just releasing that and we make it playful, it
Yeah.
takes that pressure out.
And everything you're talking about is tantric sex.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I trained with Layla Martin, and she is incredible. I learned so much from her about energy
Yeah.
and the buildup of energy, because that's what it is. It's usually less about the sex and it's more the energy. How do you feel in the moment? How
Yeah, the
turned on are
connection, the feeling, making things last a long time without that end goal, without that climax, without the finishing off. And then it just builds and it builds, the excitement builds and the passion builds. And then there's no timeline.
and it's that spaciousness. It makes me think about time is my biggest critic of my life. It's how it runs
Mhm.
my life with my path, my dharma, the purpose, time in the day. And I'm realizing now, even in romance, it's how do we try to bring a sense of spaciousness to everything so that we don't have to rush to have sex because we only got 30 minutes. But how do we give a little bit more time for the container? How do I
Yeah, I
yeah.
think as a woman, like one of the worst feelings is expectation, that there's an expectation to perform or to complete. I think
Yeah.
probably men too, right? When there's expectations
Yes.
around. And with tantric, you kind of take those expectations away.
Yes.
It's the journey.
Yes. It's funny because I went through a phase where I made a lot of wild and crazy reels that were speaking to real issues in my
Mhm.
life. And so I once had a lover, and I made a reel from this where he's like, I want to feel you in your pleasure. And I was like, I am in my pleasure. And he's like, but I want to feel you in my pleasure. And then the reel, I was like, oh, you mean like, ooh, ooh,
I
you
gotta
know,
perform.
to perform. And I've been there many times, and I can still go there, catch myself. Like, it's
Yeah.
not a performance. And so how do we also just I'm having a good time. I'm here. I'm having and reassure even the masculine, like you do you. You want to come, come. I'd rather not have the pressure. Let us feel it out. Yeah. I'm not going to force you to restrain, but maybe we can try to have it last. Maybe we want to try to go for an hour, like establishing what's the intention
Yeah.
and try to give a little bit of communication, because communication creates safety. This is why I use communication in my work, because how do we also create communication around our intention for making love in this moment? And sometimes we don't always want to name it. Sometimes we want a little mystery for the polarity, but how do we
Yeah.
also um assure, like, ooh, you partner, I tend to take a long time. I like to say this, I take my time. And so I want you to know I'm in pleasure.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, like, if you want to come, come. If we want to stretch, that helps me build. I also like to I'm going to also take care of myself at the same time, too. I'm going to do what I need to feel good. I may close my eyes. And how do we let ourselves be and be more in the body and less in the mind? Because when the
Mhm.
mind takes hold, that's when we aren't in the body and we can't feel as much.
Yeah, The communication piece is essential to the success of any relationship and really good, solid, strong communication, but it's so hard for people for some reason. I think we have to learn how to communicate, especially if we grew up in a household where things were passive aggressive or people didn't communicate clearly, or you just kind of like let things go and you hold resentment. And so when we get out of our family systems, I think a lot of times we have to learn how to communicate with our partners, with our coworkers, with our friendships. And I think it's something that you would think would be easy that we could take for granted, but it's not. And I think it's uncomfortable. It's not, it's uncomfortable. And you have to practice that uncomfortableness over and over and over again until it becomes more comfortable. And so I think it's about pushing ourselves sometimes to step outside of our comfort zone in order to get our needs met. And as women, I think that's very hard.
Yeah, it's a challenge. I had this. I give a real simple example. Just this popped into my mind as you're saying it, Nikki. And so I'm like, this divinely channeled. I'm just gonna voice like I had a situation where I was with my parents at dinner, and my dad was like tapping on the table out of his own anxiety. It
Yeah.
was with his feet. He was tapping his foot on the ground. And I didn't want to voice it was bothering me.
But it was
And
driving
I
you
had to
nuts.
it was driving me insane. And I had to catch like and I didn't actually say anything in the moment, but I did think
Yeah.
about that. And why? And why do we not voice things with our communication? Because sometimes it's uncomfortable. We're afraid it's gonna be too much. We're afraid we're gonna be too difficult, too hard to love. Like, am I trying to restrict this person and how are they gonna think of me? And they're gonna think of me different if I voice something that's not feeling good, whether it's in the bedroom and intimacy and relating with a friend. And it's how do we when we work on our communication and we just play with it and we refine it, then it's like, okay, now I thought about I had this insight today. How could I have given that spoken to that using humor and play? So
Yeah.
for me, I could have said like, Dad, what song are you working with over there? Yeah.
Yeah.
Hear what song he's tapping to. And then it's like, oh, why don't we play that instead? Because I'm noticing my body start to close up when I'm feeling the foot tapping on the ground. Like, how do I could have spoken to it. So if it happens again, maybe I use the play angle or maybe I say something, but it's it's such a good skill because it allows us to bring more of our authenticity online.
Yeah. Because we're so used to denying our needs.
Yeah.
hmm And then I think when we deny our needs, then it builds resentment.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
But if we don't deny our needs, it requires us to go into that uncomfortable space, step outside of our box, and practice some new skills that haven't come easy to us.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Because you're so right, Nikki. Like it does, it creates resentment when we
hmm
don't. We don't want to have resentment build beneath the surface in our relationships. And so it's finding ways for us to express ourselves. That's why I love this work because I
Yeah.
didn't express myself for so long. I minimized, I people pleased. I still have that as part of me. But then I could also swing the other way where I could be hyper aggressive and I can demand my needs be met and really be forceful. And so it's how do I come to that middle ground then where I'm uh, I'm assertive, but I'm warm.
Yeah.
Say what I want, but I'm open and I'm curious and I'm inviting. And
hmm
this is how we move people.
Yeah. It's not coming in an aggressive, attacking, naggy, annoying way. It's coming in like a little bit in
Mhm.
a sweeter, kinder, playful, more fun
Yes.
manner. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I love this.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nicola, this has been fun. Are we missing anything? Is there any little golden nugget we need to cover?
I'm loving this, Nikki. I feel like we covered so much.
Yeah.
There's so much depth here.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
loved it. Yeah.
Yeah. I love it.
If people want to work with you, can you share how they can find you and what some of your offerings are? And then I'll drop all those in the show notes as well.
Yeah, thank you so much for asking, Nikki. Yeah, so I offer one-on-one work, both for individuals and for couples, and a different immersion. It's a different flow, an immersion for couples, taking you through a process of deepening the connection, deepening the safety, working through the communication, and working through the passion piece too. How do we bring more playfulness and passion? Also, in
Yeah.
my one-on-one work, it's all around wholeness. How do we bring a deeper sense of sovereignty in our being, and also working with the masculine, feminine energetics, but doing it with self. And that's work you apply to partnership. And then I also
Beautiful.
have group programs. Yeah. So I have an upcoming, I haven't officially announced it. So this will be the first of this. You know what? This feels aligned. I haven't officially announced it, but it's called Kingdom Come. So I just launched Queen Bee. It's a hers mastermind all around influential communication and inviting the masculine to rise to meet you in your fullest based on your feminine essence and your masterful communication. And I have a program for the masculine.
Nice.
That starts on May 15th, May 12th, all around
Awesome.
masterful communication, deepening in intimacy and one's leadership through the voice, through the presence, through polarity.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. Thank you for sharing your beautiful energy with me this morning. Thank you for your expertise. I appreciated having you on so much.
It's been such a pleasure, Nikki. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for listening to the Connected Community Podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, please like, share, and subscribe. I can be found at www.nickyyoga.com, NICKYYYOGA.com. Until I see you again next week, I hope you have a beautiful day.